And we are live. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our March monthly meeting. We're really excited to have you today. We're also really excited to have Marilyn Morrison with us. We're going to get started in just a minute, but I want to give a quick update on NAMI Northern Virginia announcements. As you may know, all of our programs are still virtual. We have our virtual support groups that are still continuing and virtual classes and presentations as well. Also, just a note, we'd love for you to save the date. October 9th is going to be this year's NAMI Walks Northern Virginia. It is World Mental Health Day. It's the second Saturday in October, and we'd love for you to be able to join us. We'll be sending out more information soon in the next couple months. And with that, I'm actually going to turn it over to Marilyn to begin her presentation.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Marilyn Morrison. I am the Community Work Incentives Coordinator for Northern Virginia, but then I'm also the Work Incentive Planning and Assistance Project Director as well. So I have 5 people throughout the state that work with benefits counseling. Just to give you, I am actually not in my house. We are on what we call the change of venue, my husband and I. So if you see a man in the background, he's actually going to be making dinner while I'm sitting here at the table looking at the ocean. Also, we had a couple of technical difficulties. My Wi-Fi is a little sketchy, it's a little scary. So if I freeze or if I lose you, just be patient. Megan and I have a plan to jump in and fix it just in case that happens. Megan is going to be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions, please put those in the chat box. And then I have designated stops in the presentations that will be stopping briefly so you all can ask the questions. Megan also sent me a couple of questions, 3 questions that were asked, and I'm going to be addressing those as well as we move forward. The one caution that I would like to give you when you're asking the question, please make it as broad as you possibly can. Anything specific to a case, I really would prefer to talk to you offline. You can call me at any time. I am not on vacation this week. As I said, we call it a change of venue. Please call me with a specific question about a case that you might have, a family member or a client. Otherwise, let's try to keep it as broad as we can. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. Let me share my screen with you. The presentation that I'm doing today will be available. Really, all you have to do is email me, and I'm happy to send it to you in a PDF format. What we're going to be talking about today is the incentives and benefits counseling. And then looking at what happens when an individual is receiving those entitlements. And we're also going to be looking at Medicaid and Medicare, SSI, SSDI. We're going to talk a little bit about ABLE accounts and the work incentives as well. And then if you, as I said, I'm happy to share this presentation with you, and you'll be able to email me for that. My email address is all over this particular presentation. This presentation will only be an hour. This is a very big topic. I am not going to be hitting on every situation and every work incentive in every instance. And I do want to also tell you that every person is different. So every rule is different. Just because one individual is receiving $1,000 from SSDI does not mean that another person is also going to be getting that same amount. Every case is different, every person is different. And that's why it's always so important to get that benefits counseling when you're looking at employment, if there's going to be a change of status in any way. As I said, I'm with the Virginia Access CWIC Initiative. We are part of the Work Incentive Planning and Assistance Program. We provide information and direct assistance to individuals who want to work and manage their benefits. We are fully funded by an SSA cooperative agreement, and so referrals are not needed. In fact, I wanted to make sure that you all knew that I put it in there twice. So no referral is needed. We actually are in the middle of the RFA right now. So we're looking at extending for another 5 years. So we're very excited about that. Again, though, you don't need a referral to call me at any time. So let's talk about just starting out a checklist for success when you're looking at Social Security. The one thing that I do like to tell people is don't look for logic. I know it sounds crazy and people giggle when I say that. I actually had a Social Security person tell me that one time. I always like to go around a rule if I can. And I wanted to ask why the rules were the way they were. And I had a Social Security person who very nicely and kindly said, don't look for logic. And they were absolutely right. There is no logic. When you call Social Security, you're calling the 1-800 number. Then I've given you that. You're going to ask the date, the name of the person you spoke to, and what you asked and what they told you. You need to ask those questions. It's very, very important, because if they give the wrong information and that causes you termination or overpayment, you need to be able to talk to Social Security and let them know that you are following the directions of that Social Security representative. It's very important to really repeat back what the individual has told you, so everything is really understood, and make sure you're writing down as they say it. Make copies of all the documents you give to Social Security, both the forms that you fill out and the evidence that you want them to have that are in your possession, and do not lose your copies. Most likely Social Security will lose them. They'll get separated. Last week I had 4 cases that came up where all 4 clients were in a work activity review. All 4 clients had sent all of the necessary copies. They sent the evidence, they sent pay stubs, they sent everything they possibly could. And from the time that they mailed it to the time that it got to the processing center in Philadelphia, copies were lost. So they had to resend copies. And thankfully they did have the copies. Also, oftentimes Social Security is going to ask you to fill out the form more than one time. We're going to be talking about something called the Work Activity Report. The Work Activity Report is going to come up every 2 or 3 years. So it's best to just make a copy of it, because you're going to fill it out again, and there's no reason to start from ground zero and reinvent the wheel. You already have the information at your fingertips. Also, make sure that you promptly open and read all mail sent by Social Security. When Social Security gives you a deadline, and compliance is required. And make sure that you're seeking help immediately, and keep all paperwork, letters, and mailing envelopes in your file. This is most important right now. We all know what's happening with the post office and the postal service at the moment. I cannot begin to count how many folks have called me and said that they received a letter from Social Security. It was dated February 5th. They got it on March 5th. The letter said they only had 15 days to respond. So make sure that you are keeping the mailing envelopes and all of that paperwork, and note when you receive the letter, especially right now because of the postal system issues. Again, I have a client that recently received a letter regarding their benefits. The letter was dated January 29th. It wasn't mailed until February 28th, and mom didn't receive it until March 5th. And it gave 15 days for response. So please, again, I can't stress that enough. Remember that you must report pay stubs each month to Social Security, and be sure to report to the correct field office. Zip code of the payee is key. You can report by mail. Right now, you're not able to walk into the office, but generally you can. You can also report your wages through there's an app that Social Security has developed, and there's a wage reporting phone number that you can call as well. And make sure that you keep your wage records in your file. Oftentimes right now, folks are saying, well, we can get them electronically. That's great. If you can get them electronically, then get them electronically and keep them in an electronic file. It's a lot of paper to have to print out 5 years worth of pay stubs if Social Security is asking for a review. So it's best to just keep those handy where you can get to those, because at some point or another, when you are working, Social Security will ask for those pay stubs. And remember, if a person receives SSI and or Medicaid, let me say that again. If a person is receiving SSI and or Medicaid, remember to keep all resources below $2,000 for the individual, $3,000 for the couple in any month to maintain eligibility. And shoot, I'm so sorry. And Medicaid eligibility may vary from state to state. And we're going to be talking more about this as we move forward. I have a list of resources, and we're going to be talking about some other pieces to this, but this is just a checklist to remind you of some things. When a major life change occurs, address, marriage, employment, loss of job, divorce, children, make sure you're reporting that to Social Security immediately. You can report it to the 1-800 number and to the local field office. The local field office right now, during the pandemic, there is no reopening date at the moment. They're going to be continuing to work virtually, as we all have. They are seeing clients in the office, but it's on an as needed basis. And generally they're looking at if there's a dire emergency. If your benefits have stopped and there's a potential for some disasters that can happen because of that. Otherwise, they're doing everything virtually. So all the Social Security offices have dedicated fax lines now that you can fax all your documents directly into the field office, and then it's distributed electronically to the claims reps. And if you'd like any of those fax numbers, I have those available as well, and you can always contact me with those. Let's talk about the definition of disability first. So really what we're talking about tonight is adult disability. I'm not going to be touching a lot on childhood disability, but I will be mentioning it because I know I did have a question about that. So I'll touch on that briefly as well. This is the way Social Security looks at disability. They define disability for both SSI and SSDI programs as the inability to engage in substantial gainful activity, they call this SGA, by reason of any medical impairment. SGA is defined as a number. It's $1,310 gross a month. So basically what this is saying is in English versus Social Security is that disability, they want to see if an individual can earn substantial gainful activity or $1,310 without supports. If a person can go out and get a job and they can earn income and they don't need case management and job coaching and therapies and maybe accommodations on the job, then they're considered to be disabled. They do look at the medical definition, but then there is this added piece that is within the adult disability definition. Now for childhood disability, the definition is different. Of course, they don't expect children to go out and earn money. What they look at is developmental milestones. So childhood disability is defined as developmental milestones, and they look at the developmental milestones of the child. The other thing that childhood disability looks at is parents' income. So that's always a big sticking point because according to Social Security, the parent's income is deemed to the child. So a portion of the income that a child is available to the child is from the parent's income. So they do look at that. So that's an added piece that they add to the childhood disability piece. And I know I did have a question about that. I'm happy to talk to you further about that if you'd like to. Again, give me a call. I'm going to be saying that a lot throughout the presentation. As I said, a lot of times these questions are really individualized. And I'm going to spend a lot of time with you. I'm going to ask a lot of questions to get more information. So, if I'm saying that, it does not mean that I'm finding a way out of the question. Actually, it's my way of getting more into the question because I want more information from you. And this again is definition of this for under the age of 18. They look at they look at developmental milestones. Okay, so let's talk about initial eligibility and what you're going to do when you're applying for disability. Okay, so basically, hold on, I need to turn my phone off because I don't know if you can hear it, but it's been going off like crazy. When you're looking at, and this is adult disability, what we're talking about here. So when you're looking at applying for disability, first of all, adult disability starts the month that the individual turns 18. Under the age of 18, they're still going to be considered a child. So the best time to apply for disability for anyone, for an adult, is the month after they turn 18. So it's not in the month they turn 18, but the month after they turn 18. Anytime after that is fine. You cannot pre-apply. So you can't go in 6 months before the individual turns 18 to pre-apply for disability. It doesn't work like regular retirement, because you are able to go in 6 months in advance and apply for retirement. It's much different. The retirement is based on your birth date. With disability, they do have to look at medical determination and medical information. So it's the month after the person turns 18, or beyond that is fine. You just don't want to do it under the age of 18. The first thing that you're going to want to do is register for a My SSA account on ssa.gov. The reason for that is that's where you're going to track the application. They're going to give you updates on what's happening. It's still in processing. Determination has been made. So you want to make sure to register for the myssa.gov. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to apply online. The date of application is the date of eligibility, which again is why you can't pre-apply. Right now, with Social Security offices closed, the best way to apply is either on phone or electronically. The application online is really for SSDI. So as you're going through that application, they're going to ask you if you want to apply for SSI as well. You do want to click that button because you do want to apply for both SSI and SSDI. Social Security is going to put you in the proper category. So you want to make sure that they are going to look at you for eligibility for both. And we're going to talk about the eligibility for both. You're going to start that application online. The date of the application is the date of eligibility. The paperwork is going to be mailed at that point to you, and they're going to ask you for more information. So they're going to ask you they might ask you for activities of daily living. They're going to ask you online, they're going to want the doctor's names, hospitalizations, medical information. They are not going to ask you for medical records. They're going to contact physicians for those medical records. So you want to make sure to let your doctors know about what you're doing, to make sure that that request from Social Security is not going to land on an administrator's desk and it'll just stay there. You want to shepherd it through, make sure your physicians know that the application is being processed. Social Security is going to be contacting them. They need to give as much information as you possibly can. Now, as you're filling out the application, what you're doing is you're really talking about the individual's worst day. That day might only come one day a year. It might only be a half a day, but you want to talk about that day. You want to be very clear in what you're telling Social Security. Don't stop at just yes or no questions. Yes or no answers. You want to get really specific. You can, I always say you can color outside the lines. Don't stop at yes or no. They may ask, is he able to cook? Well, yeah, he can cook, but he's going to forget that it's on the stove and it's going to burn. Or yes, he can cook, but he's going to forget he even cooked in the first place and then he won't eat it. Or maybe, yeah, he can put something in the microwave, but he's going to wrap it in foil and then the microwave is going to spark. Or, any number of different variants. He only knows how to cook one thing and that's it. So you want to be really careful about those pieces. They might ask you about money management. And that's another piece that they want to talk about. I always give an example of my son who's on the spectrum. And he went to Israel on his birthright trip a couple of years ago. And he had about $200 in cash. He had $750 in his check card. He didn't think to use his check card. He came home with 2 souvenirs. He sort of got close to running out of money because he only had $200 to spend for the week on food, and he forgot that he could use his check card. He had a great time, but he could have done a lot more. He could have been more into the experience, but it just didn't dawn on him that he could use the check card. I know that's kind of a lame example, but Austin is an interesting, if something, for the longest time, if something was $15.99 and he had $20 in his pocket, he would get confused. Or if it came up to $25 and he had 5 and 2 10s, again, it would confuse him a little. So money management has always been a little bit of an issue for us. So you do want to get specific about those types of things. An interview will take place, and that's where they're going to get more specific about some activities of daily living. They may ask about transportation and driving. Is he able to drive? Another, the example I give again is our son Austin, where he can drive now, but he couldn't pass the basic test at the DMV. There was too much activity happening in the office, and he couldn't really get into the computer, where he was able to finally pass it when he was able to go to Woodrow Wilson and pass it with the help of DARS. And now he's very cautious about driving. So he really only drives back and forth to the Giant where he works, which is a half a mile away. So he's very cautious about that. For the longest time, we were nervous about Austin taking the Metro, because he loves video games, and he's very outgoing and very talkative. So we were nervous about him riding the Metro, because we were afraid he would start talking to someone and then just follow them off the Metro. So we had safety concerns. So you want to think about all those things as you're working through your application and your interview. You want to make sure to let Social Security know about all of those pieces. At that point, the information from Social Security will be sent to the Disability Determination Service, and that's where they're going to make the determination. So that's why you want to give as much information and be as descriptive as you possibly can be, because the interviewer is not going to be making the determination. It's going to go completely different office. So you really want to paint a picture of the individual. Okay. They're going to ask for medical history. The information received is going to be reviewed. They're going to look at work history, when the disability began, the treatments. They're going to look at all of those pieces. DDS may request on behalf of Social Security a medical exam, and Social Security pays for the exam. It doesn't mean that that's good. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means they don't have enough information and they need more information. Determination will be sent to Social Security. It generally does take about 60 days. It was taking a little bit longer, but now it's gone back to 60 days. One of the positive things that's happened with the pandemic, if you can look at positives, is that Social Security seems to be working more effectively and more efficiently. So that's always a good thing, I guess. They have not been handing out overpayments. They didn't hand out overpayments between the months of March and September. So a lot of folks have been getting overpayments. So you want to, if you're receiving benefits, you may want to, I'm not saying everybody's going to get an overpayment, but they are reviewing right now. They're doing a lot of reviews. So the determination will be sent to Social Security. Takes about 60 to 90 days. You're either going to be eligible for benefits. If you get a denial, you can apply for a reconsideration. And if you get a denial at the reconsideration stage, the next step is to appeal, and that goes to the administrative law judge. Now, the one thing I do want to add to this is that when you apply for both SSI and SSDI, remember I said you always want to apply for both. If you're not eligible for one or the other, they do very quickly. They find that out very quickly. So you might get a denial letter from, say, SSDI. Well, the reason why you might get the denial letter from SSDI is because you don't have the work history, and SSDI is based on work history. That doesn't mean that they're denying you SSI. It means they're denying you SSDI. So you might still have an application in process. So that's why it's important to get the myssa.gov account, because that's where you're going to be able to track both of those applications. Megan, do we have any questions?
Yes, we had one question. Do most people hire an attorney? Is it necessary for success to hire an attorney?
That's a great question. At this point, if you're doing initial eligibility, you will not find an attorney that will take the case. Attorneys like to take the case after you've been denied, because if you're denied and then you get the appeal, they go back to the original date that you applied. So there's more money. If it goes to the ALJ, it's even more money. There are very few folks that will take the case. I have a separate division, part of Virginia Access, where I'm happy to walk people through this process individually. And then if you want me to move forward and really work with you, application, we have a fee that we charge. But a lot of times it's not necessary to hire an attorney for this type of thing. Was that it? Yes?
Yep, that's all for now.
Okay, great. Okay. So I'm going to move something here. Okay. Social Security is required by law to periodically do what's called a continuing disability review. So that is going to come up periodically. So you will, as I said, if you're working, they're going to do a work activity, a work CDR, a work activity report about every 3 or 5 years. Otherwise, you do have to go through a continuing medical review. And in everyone's diary, when you're found eligible for Social Security disability, it's going to be in your record. So it's either every 3, 5, or 7 years that you will have to do another medical review. It is not at the level that you have to do for initial eligibility. Sometimes it might be a form that just asks, are you still, is everything, are you, sometimes it's literally, are you worse? Are you better? Are you the same? And it's a very short form, but that does come up periodically. So I just want to let you know. The other thing is, I hear a lot of folks, and sometimes it still comes up, there is no such thing as percentages. You're not 100% disabled. You're not 75% disabled. That's something completely different. You hear that a lot with the VA when you're talking about on the military side. You also hear it when you're looking at workman's comp. But there is no such thing as 100% disabled under Social Security rules. You either are blind or you're not blind. And those are the two categories that you fall in when you're looking at Social Security disability. So let's talk about SSI. So SSI is a cash benefit paid to individuals who meet medical, disability, and financial need. There is a financial need criteria. The maximum federal benefit amount that you can receive from SSI is $794. That's the max. It is directly associated with Medicaid. So when you're eligible for SSI, you're also eligible for Medicaid. It's automatic eligibility. It's automatically eligible, but you are not automatically enrolled. So you do make sure that you enroll in Medicaid. There's a resource limit of no more than $2,000. So you cannot have any more than a combination of $2,000 in the bank or any combination of accounts. You want to be very, very careful with that. Social Security does not like people to have money in the bank when you're getting SSI. So they will assess overpayments very quickly when that happens. With a living arrangement, if the student or if the individual is 18 years or older and someone is providing food and or shelter, that SSI check is going to be reduced by 1/3. So if a person is paying their fair share of room and board, they may receive the full amount of $794. So a lot of times when a person is applying for SSI, a parent is applying for SSI, one of the questions that Social Security will ask is he going to pay rent? If the parent says, oh no, he doesn't have any money, he's not going to pay rent, Social Security is automatically going to reduce the $794 by 1/3, which comes out to about $500. The next question they may ask is, you may say, yes, he's going to pay rent. The next question Social Security may ask is, well, is this amount that anyone off the street would pay if you rented a room? If you said, oh, heck no, do you know what rents go for in this area? Again, they're going to reduce it by 1/3. So you want to be very, very careful about charging room and board. You want to charge the fair share. It cannot be more than $794, but it can be anything up to $794. In Northern Virginia, it swings back and forth. Pre-pandemic, anything less than $500 or $600, there was a problem. During the pandemic, I can't wait to say post-pandemic. We're not there yet, but it's coming. I know it's coming. Anywhere between $400 and $500 a month is really acceptable at that point. But you want to make sure that you are charging. Happy to share with anybody and talk you through some other pieces of that if you'd like. Let's talk about resources. So consider student resources, cash, account, stocks, bonds, IRAs, anything that the individual is to grab, anything that they can directly have their hand on. A 401k that you can take a loan from, land that you own but not lived on, anything that's converted to cash. So that would be, you have a big yard sale and you get rid of it, cash, that can be cash. Resources of a spouse. So if the individual is married, the resources of the spouse. And remember, it's resources of the parent if the beneficiary is under the age of 18. These are the resources that are excluded. So you can own a home, also goods and personal property, clothing, somebody gives you a new coat, a burial space for the beneficiary and immediate family. You own a burial space. Burial funds up to $1,500 for the individual and the spouse. Life insurance, $1,500. Anything over that would be considered a resource. Retroactive SSI or SSDI for up to 9 months. So oftentimes, there's back pays that folks will get. You're found out, remember I said SSI goes back to the date of application. It might take 6 or 9 months to become eligible, and they're going to back pay you that 9 months. You have 9 months to spend that down. Property in a specific trust, and those are the irrevocable trust or the special needs trusts. A past plan, we're going to talk about an earned tax credit. Individual development account, we're going to talk about property essential self-support. You can have one automobile, unless you need unless you have an automobile, maybe you need a utility van for employment, then that's fine as well. And then the ABLE accounts, which we're going to talk about, those are also excluded. The other thing that I should have on this slide that I don't have it is those stimulus payments. I get a lot of those questions every day about the stimulus payments. Those are completely excluded from the resource rules and the income rules that we're going to talk about for 12 months from the date of receipt. So you have 12 months to spend down those stimulus payments. Okay. What happened to my, there we go. Okay. With Medicaid, remember I said that if you're found eligible for SSI, you're also eligible for Medicaid. Medicaid is state supported. The minute that you're found eligible for SSI, you are eligible to apply for Medicaid in Virginia. That gives you eligibility to the Medicaid category of age, blind, and disabled. It does, it jumps over that Medicaid expansion that we all have heard about. During COVID-19, a person cannot lose their Medicaid. So as long as we're still under the governor's order, which we are still under the governor's order, a person cannot lose their Medicaid. They cannot lose their Medicaid. I think, Megan, this is probably a good time to stop again.
Yes, we actually have a few questions that came in. The first one is, does a guardianship over an adult child have any consequence?
Okay. Oh, you cut out.
Oh, you also froze.
You cut out. Okay, does a guardianship, I'm sorry, say that again.
Does a guardianship
Are you there?
over, can you hear me? Sorry, having technical difficulties, everyone.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Does a guardianship over an adult child have any consequence?
Well, that's a guardianship question. You know, for Social Security, it just means that you're able to talk to them a little bit easier. I wish I could give you more information, but you know, that for Social Security purposes, it allows you to talk to them, to talk to Social Security as a guardian. Oftentimes you can walk in and just say, well, I'm the parent, but they won't give you information unless you have signed releases. So that guardianship does give you access to that individual's Social Security information. Did I lose you again?
Sorry?
Did I lose you again?
We're going in and out. I think, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, great. Is federal aid refund from university a resource to stop SSI?
Yes, if you get a refund from like a loan, like the 529s, and then maybe they send you back the money that you might have paid them for tuition, yes, that can be considered, it would be considered earnings for the first month, and then it would be considered resources the second month you have it. So yes, absolutely, that can cause a problem.
Great. Will receiving SSDI affect the special needs trust I set up for my daughter?
Receiving SSDI should not have any effect on a special needs trust. Special needs trust is set up because you're hoping not to affect the resource rules for SSI. And SSDI is completely different. SSDI is not, SSDI could care less about resources. Medicare doesn't care about resources. But if there's waiver will look at resources. So a special needs trust can't do anything to SSDI. SSDI can't do anything to the special needs trust.
Can a person pay rent to a family member and receive full SSI?
Yes, in fact, yeah, because they don't care if it's a family member or not. You're living in the household of another. So it doesn't matter if you're paying rent to your mother, your father, your aunt, your uncle, your grandma, your grandpa. It doesn't make any difference. As far as they're concerned, you are living in the household of another and you are paying that person rent.
Great. We have a couple more questions that keep coming in. How many months do you, sorry.
Well, this is a big, I knew, Rick gets a lot of questions. That always does.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How many months do you have to spend the back payment if it goes over $2,000? $2,000.
Doesn't matter if it's $2,000 or not. If it's a back payment, you have 9 months to spend it down below the $2,000 resources. So if you have a back payment of $10,000, you have 9 months to spend that down below the $2,000 limit.
The next question is, will POA allow SS to talk to parents?
Well, I'm sorry, will what?
POA. I'm not familiar with the acronyms. I apologize.
Yeah, I mean, well, the PO, yeah, I mean, as long as there's a release of information, then that's, I mean, yeah, I mean, really depends on the individual. There has to be a release of information in order for Social Security to speak to anyone outside of the individual, unless there's guardianship.
Great. I think that's all the questions we have for now.
All righty. So let's talk about wages and the impact on Social Security, on SSI. So SSI is going to reduce the max SSI. SSA is going to reduce the max SSI by a portion of the total accountable income every month. Basically, the rule of thumb is for every $2 a person earns, they're going to lose $1 of their SSI. So if a person is earning $1,000 a month, they're going to lose about $400. I know the magnitude of one. They're going to lose about $400 from their SSI because there's some exclusions that they add into it. There are no earnings limits. You can absolutely get to the point where you're not eligible for a cash benefit. You're not eligible for the SSI, and that's okay. You're still on the rolls. SSI is month to month, so it really is absolutely okay if it gets to that point. There are no earnings limits. You're always going to have more in your pocket by earning wages. SSI is month to month, so you do need to report monthly. These are the work incentives that Social Security looks at for SSI. This is really to give you a leg up. It really is a great way to level the playing field. So we're going to talk about these. First of all, there's the impairment related work expenses. These are any out-of-pocket expenses that support the disability and enable the individual to work. So that can be attendant care, transportation costs, medical devices, out-of-pocket expenses for medications, for copays, doctor's visits, hospital visits, testing, anything that is not usual or customary. Social Security will look at, and that brings down the countable earned income. It's almost like a tax deduction, but you use it monthly. So if you've got someone that's earning $1,000 a month and maybe have $200 in out-of-pocket expenses, then what Social Security is going to look at is they're going to do the calculation based on $800, not on $1,000. So bring down the countable earned income every month. When you're reporting your income, you also want to report your pay stubs at the same time, and that's going to take care of that. Now, when you're reporting your income, Social Security is going to be 2 to 3 months behind. So what they're going to do is they're going to put an estimate in of earnings. So you really want to be prepared for that, and know that anything you earn in March may not show up for your SSI. It may not cause any. There might not be an occurrence with your SSI check for maybe May or June. So you want to plan for that. If you don't report earnings, they're going to be putting an estimate of earnings into the system until they can verify earnings. So you want to be ready for that as well. They don't work in real time. They're about 3 months behind. There's also something called the student earned income exclusion. This is basically students that earn income that are regularly attending school. Up to $1,930 a month gross, or up to $7,707 a year is completely excluded from that SSI calculation. So it really is a great for someone who is regularly attending school. And that's even in the summertime when there's no school, but maybe you have an internship and maybe that's going to pay you some added income. So Social Security will completely exclude any earnings while you are regularly attending school or in a trade program or any sort of educational system. Plan to achieve self-support. This is a really great opportunity for anyone to save income into specialized account to achieve an occupational objective. So maybe you want to go to school and become an accountant. And right now you're working retail somewhere. All of the income can be saved into the PASS plan. Social Security is not going to change your SSI cash benefit. They're not going to do that 2-to-1 offset that I talked about. You'll get your full cash benefit every month. And at the same time, you're able to save over the $2,000 into the PASS plan. And you can use that for approved expenses to achieve the occupational objective. I had a client several years ago that wanted to be an accountant, and she was taking bookkeeping classes to get her certificate at the community college at NVCC. And she needed a car. She lived across the street in a group home from the MVCC in Leesburg, but she needed to get to the MVCC in Annandale. So we were able to work it out with Social Security where she could save for an automobile, because in order for her to finish her schooling, she needed to have the automobile to get her to the Annandale campus. And she works as an accountant now, so she was able to do that. So it, for the right person, the PASS plan is really a wonderful, wonderful program. And I love to write them. I have a young woman that I'm writing one for right now that, again, needs an automobile. She wants to go into a management position with the company that she's with, but that means that she has to travel to go to different district offices. So I'm helping her write that right now. And it looks like, hopefully that'll go through. So we're really excited about that. Again, for the right person, it really does make a huge difference. Remember I said that it's okay if your cash benefit gets to 0. If you're on SSI and you earn income where you hit that break-even point, that's okay. There's something called 1619B. And 1619B maintains your Medicaid in order to work, and your annual earnings are actually above, you can go, it's about $35,000 now. So a person can earn $35,000. They may not be eligible for SSI, but their Medicaid will stay with them under 1619B. It makes a huge difference, especially, when we're looking at minimum wage potentially going up and you've got someone that's on SSI, potentially the SSI could go to 0. They're still going to be on the rolls to be eligible for the SSI, but they're not going to be eligible to get the cash benefit. Medicaid will still remain with them. Let me get into SSDI and then we'll answer some questions at the same time, because I know there's probably some Medicaid questions in there. So let's talk about SSDI. So SSDI, remember SSI is means tested. This SSI is really for that person that has no work history. SSDI is the cash benefit that's paid from individuals who have worked and paid into FICA. So they have the number of quarters they've earned income. That's where a person can be found eligible for SSDI. There is no standard federal benefit amount for SSDI. I've seen folks that receive $300 and I've seen folks that receive $2,000 a month. So it really depends on the FICA that's paid into the system. Another way to be found eligible for SSDI is to be designated as a CDB, which is a childhood disability beneficiary. If the disability is diagnosed prior to the age of 22, then they do have the CDB designation, and we're going to talk about what that means. Now, with SSDI comes Medicare. So there's Medicaid that comes with SSI. Medicare is directly associated with SSDI. And one of the questions that I have that Megan sent me was, why does Medicaid convert to Medicare after 24 months? Medicaid does not convert to Medicare after 24 months. Once a person is found eligible for SSDI, there is a 24-month waiting period before a person can be found eligible for Medicare. So if a person has Medicaid during that time, it's possible that Medicare will also slide in at that point. And then there's different levels of Medicaid that a person will receive. Medicaid is based, again, on financial need and earnings. If an individual starts receiving Medicare and the SSDI is under a certain level, a person can be found eligible for something called QMB, Q as in the Queen's Gambit, M as in Maryland, B as in benefits. And basically what that means is that Medicaid will pay the Medicare premiums and some amounts of other services based on the level. That program is called the Medicare Savings Program. And I do know that there was a question here that says, what options are available for me when navigating the maze of Medicaid and Medicare options when my family member has decided he no longer wants to deal with any government entity? Well, I can help you, I can help you through that maze, and get it to the point where it might work for everyone. I can certainly answer any questions. This person currently has SSDI and is being switched to Medicare. Yeah, because Medicare, remember, comes with SSDI. If the individual is receiving SSDI, after a 24-month waiting period, they're automatically switched to Medicare. A person can have Medicare and Medicaid. They can also have privately funded health insurance. That would be the primary, and then it goes to Medicare and Medicaid. So CDB benefits. Oh, I'm sorry, I just dropped something here. So CDB benefits. CDB benefits is a childhood disability beneficiary. This is the monthly payment that's based on the parent's work history. So if the person is found to be disabled prior to the age of 22, the disabled adult child is entitled to approximately half of the parent's benefit if the parent is living and when they open their work history with Social Security. So when the parent opens their work history with Social Security, the individual is then switched from SSI to SSDI. If both parents are disabled, retired, or deceased, the child is entitled to benefits on the higher amount of 2. You cannot turn this down. This is absolutely the law. You can't say, no, I don't want him to have this because he needs his Medicaid or he needs his waiver. You can't turn it away. It's something that automatically will happen. So a lot of times I really help people navigate through that and be aware of what will happen when, as parents, we start taking our Social Security retirement, how that will impact the child, just so there's a plan in effect. Again, I've just talked about Medicare. SSDI comes with Medicare. Hospitalization, there is no premium. Medical, there's a monthly premium, $145. And there is a prescription drug plan. If there is also Medicaid eligibility, Medicaid might come in and pay the premium of that $145. It's cheaper for the state to pay the $145 than it is for the full Medicaid and for you not to have Medicare. You cannot turn down Medicare if you have Medicaid as well. Pickle amendment, this is one of those pieces that if you are getting SSI and you're flipped to SSDI because the parent opens their work history, this protects your Medicaid. So if for some reason you're no longer eligible for SSI by no fault of your own, there is something called special groups of former SSI recipients. And this will manage that benefit, and that will maintain the Medicaid eligibility. It will not protect the SSI payments, but it keeps that Medicaid intact. So let's talk about ABLE accounts. Excuse me, 1 minute. So let's talk about ABLE accounts. This is our last thing. And actually, you know what, Megan, do you want to do some questions at this point?
Sure. I think we have about 2 questions, and then okay. I know we're getting close to 7:30, so I'll stop after those 2 questions.
We're good.
Okay. One is if someone is separated but not divorced from a spouse, does the spouse's income count for them?
Sometimes it will, but as long as you can show a legal separation document, Social Security will accept that. As long as it's a legal separation and you can show that the spouse is not supporting. Now, if there is spousal support happening, then that's a problem. But if you are legally separated, Social Security will accept that document.
And the other question is, how much of a work history does a person have to have had to qualify for SSDI?
You need 20 work credits within the past 10 years. So a lot of times what you can do is again, I really encourage everyone to get a MySSA Gov account. In the past, they used to send out the statements every year that would say, when you retire at this age, this is how much you're going to get. You retire at this age, this is how much you're going to get. Now you can get that information straight off of within the SSA, the MySSA section, and you can find out how many work credits you might need to be found eligible for SSDI at this point. But it's the rule of thumb is 20 work credits within the last 10 years. Okay.
And we had another question come in. Can you review again the impact of a CDB determination on the parents' retirement payments?
Well, there's no impact on there's no impact on the parents' Social Security. It doesn't decrease the amount that the parent receives at all. It just means that if you have a child, for instance, that the month after he turned 18, you went and you did everything right, and he's eligible for SSI, but now it's retirement time and you're opening your work history with Social Security. You're going to take your retirement. If you're perhaps getting $2,500 a month from your retirement, then the child, because he was found eligible, he was found to be disabled prior to the age of 22, would, instead of getting the SSI, he would then flip to SSDI and get about $1,250 a month instead. That's why there's always, when you're talking to the ARC, when you talk to me, when you talk to other CWICs, we really encourage folks to make that application prior to the age of 22. If you don't do it, if you do it after the age of 22, that's fine. But prior to the age of 22, that's going to give that CDB designation. So when the parent starts taking their retirement, the child receives 1/2 of what the parent is receiving. It doesn't decrease what the parent is receiving. And then when the parent is deceased, they get 3/4 of what the parent was receiving. And then again, if both parents are disabled, retired, or deceased, it's based on the higher amount of the two. Okay.
Yep, all set. We can keep going.
Okay, so let's talk about the ABLE accounts very quickly. And Megan had asked me to touch on this, so I wanted to go over ABLE accounts. ABLE accounts are available to anyone in the US. As long as you were found to be disabled prior to the age of 26, regardless of state residency. If you are receiving SSI and or SSDI, either one is fine. Or you can self-certify that the disability occurred prior to the age of 26. You could open something called the ABLE account. The ABLE accounts are an alternative to the Special Needs Trust. These are exclusionary accounts. They are administered by the College 529 plan. In Virginia, they're called ABLE Now. You can have a maximum of $100,000. It's a maximum per individual contributor of $15,000. So that means that an individual, you can contribute up to $15,000 a year into an ABLE account for the individual. There is a lifetime max of $500,000. Now, it used to be that money remaining in the ABLE accounts after the death of the owner were subject to a Medicaid payback. That no longer is the case, so that was changed. They are very affordable. They are a financial instrument. The individual that owns the account has control of the account. They get a check card, and they're able to use it for any number of things. The list of items you can use it on, you can use it for school, you can use it for modifications to home, you can use it for medications, you can use it for training, personal attendant care. There's an entire list that can be found on the Able Now website. And in Virginia, it is called Able Now. It's very easy to sign up. If you already have a College 529, the money that's in the College 529 can be transferred to the Able account. It's called the 529A. It's incredibly accessible and very easy to use. And I would encourage everyone to go onto the Able Now website, and you can look it over. You can ask questions. You open it online. It's very easy to utilize. I have any number of clients that have it, and it's a great way that instead of having to spend down $2,000 or spend down a back payment, or maybe you're saving for a very specific thing. I've had folks that said, oh, I'm saving for a computer. It's like, you can save for it in the Able account, and that way you don't have to worry about that $2,000 resource. If that resource remains over $2,000 and you don't have an Able account, or you don't have like a special needs trust, you can lose your eligibility. So it really is important to have something that can help that. And the Able accounts are set up to assist the individual to save over $2,000. Again, there's no minimum to open the account. You pay for qualified expenses online or with the Able Now card. The earnings grow free from federal taxes, and you can open the account online. And the qualified expenses, this is just some boilerplate information, but it's basically to help you maintain or improve your health, independence, or quality of life. And that's really what they look at. So every person is different. Every person has unique needs. And it really is based on what you need and what the treatments are. And you don't have to get any kind of approval. Oh, let me get to that. So very quickly, that was really my last slide on the Able accounts. I would encourage everyone to look at that Able Now website. Especially now with those stimulus payments. I have a lot of folks that are opening Able accounts, and they're using their stimulus payments to open the Able accounts because the use is very broad. But they're just another instrument. There's also a tax savings to individuals who contribute to Able accounts. There are some tax benefits as well. So to avoid the SSA, to avoid overpayments in other situations, before you start work, before there's employment, even if you're thinking about working, even if it's in the future at some point, you're thinking about, well, maybe I want to get a job, or, it's pie in the sky. It doesn't matter. Get a benefits analysis before you think about it. And that's when I would say, call me, because that's what I do. The one thing I did not tell you in all of this is that I'm actually a free service. I'm on a cooperative grant with Social Security to provide benefits counseling. So again, you don't need a referral. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, and we'll do a benefits analysis. I don't close my cases. I have clients that have been on my list for 12 years. I'm working with a young man right now that literally one of my first clients 12 years ago. Because it's really an ebb and flow. Your benefits, it's where you are right now is where your benefits are right now. It may not be where you're going to be next year or in 5 years. So you always want to have these conversations. When you're submitting pay stubs, make sure that you're submitting your impairment related work receipts at the same time. Remember that resource level. And then if you have any questions about anything, if you get those letters that they make no sense whatsoever, you can just call me. Oftentimes I'll say, well, send it to me, or read it to me over the phone. Or I had a client today that called me that said, I got a letter, here's what it says. And he sort of mentioned 2 or 3 lines. And I said, all right, this is what it's going to say. It said all of it. I assured him I didn't have the letter in front of me. It was just a standard letter that I was very much aware of. So if you have any questions, you can always call me. You can ask me questions. I'm going to ask you 15 more questions. You can email me. If you're emailing me, make sure that you're giving me your phone number, because there are times when I might just pick up the phone and just call you and ask those questions. If something occurs to you after tonight's presentation, email me or call me. I'm more than happy to answer those questions. And thank you for having me. And Megan, I will answer questions.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. We had a couple questions come in related to the ABLE accounts. So,
okay, sure.
First question is, which is better, ABLE or special needs trust?
It really depends on what you need and what you're looking for. Either one has their benefits. You know, they both have their pros and their cons. Yeah, I mean, that's a really individual question. So I would never answer that. I can, you know, again, they each have their pros, they each have their cons.
Mm-hmm. Is there a limit to the amount you can save at ABLE?
You can save up to $100,000. Anything over $100,000 is going to be looked at as a resource, and there's a $500,000 lifetime amount. So, you know, they really mean that to be spent. What a lot of people do is they open the ABLE account, so they're able to save into the ABLE account right now to be used for specific expenses. And then they open and then there's a special needs trust that's open for future savings, inheritances, and things like that. But they're both different. Sometimes special needs trust you don't have direct access to. Special needs, the ABLE account you do have direct access to. But with the ABLE account, there is a $100,000 limit, $500,000 lifetime. And that's across the board in any state. You can only have one. So you can only have one. And it really, you know, every state has a different program. I will say Virginia has one of the best programs that I've seen. And we were one of the first. Virginia and Nebraska were the first 2 to open their ABLE accounts.
Do ABLE accounts only go into effect once someone receives SSI or SSDI?
No. You can self-certify. So you don't have to be receiving SSI or SSDI. You just have to show that there's a disability, and there's a separate form that you self-certify that there is a disability.
Is there
you have to be diagnosed prior to the age of 26, though. So that's the thing, though. That's really the bottom line with the ABLE accounts.
Is there a resource limit for SSDI?
No, there is no resource limit for SSDI. SSDI doesn't care what you have in the bank. SSDI doesn't care about anything but actual work earnings. You go out, you get a job, you earn. If you have workman's comp, or you're getting a VA benefit, or you're a trust fund baby, SSDI doesn't care. It doesn't make any difference. They only look at work income, and there are very specific working rules that go with SSDI. SSI looks at anything that's coming through the door. So they are going to look at any of those other benefits that you might be getting. They might look at child support. They might look at spousal report. They look at any of those additional income. If you're getting an annuity and you're getting $100 a month from the annuity, SSI will look at that. They look at any money that walks through the door. SSDI does not. SSI, very much resource, and Medicaid, very much that $2,000 resource. Medicare, as long as you pay their Medicare $145 premium every month, you're on Medicare.
And it looks like we have one more question. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe you could rephrase this question. It says, and isn't it considered a resource to stop SSI? I'm not exactly sure what that's asking.
Is it a resource to stop SSI? You don't want to stop SSI. You don't want to stop your benefits because it's very hard to get them started back up again.
Yeah, maybe I'll see if that person will rephrase that. And then one more came in. What type of diagnosis is needed for the ABLE account? Does anxiety, depression, ADD, ODD, epilepsy qualify?
You can go online to the ABLE account, and there's a list of qualifications. Generally, I mean, if you're talking about somebody that is a multiple diagnosis for one person, I would think that yes, that would do it. If you're talking individually, each one of those, you can go online to the ABLE, and you can call them as well, and they'll talk to you and they'll let you know. There was one other question that I had that you sent me also, Megan, and it was, do you have a resource for Social Security representative payees who can serve as rep payees to an SSDI recipient? I really cannot give resources under my grant, but there are any number of agencies that are rep payee agencies that will serve as a rep payee. A family member can serve as a rep payee, but then the question was, when the rep payee becomes unable to continue to serve because of health problems, when there aren't any family members, again, there are agencies that will act as rep payees. And Social Security has a number of rep payee agencies that they can also give you recommendations for.
And then we had a clarification. Does the money in the ABLE account matter for a resource for SSI purposes?
No, that's the beauty of ABLE accounts. ABLE accounts, that's why really ABLE accounts were set up, was to give another way for an individual to save over the $2,000 and be able to maintain their SSI eligibility. So anything that is in the ABLE account the ABLE account is considered to be an exclusionary account.
And then we had one more come in, and then maybe let's wrap up after that, because I know we're running a little bit late, but how long does one have to, sorry?
2 minutes.
Yep. How long does one have to work to get SSDI? I think this.
Well, it's based on your quarters. So you have to have 5 quarters of working of income, and you have to have earned over a certain amount. And I'm sorry, I don't have my cheat sheet in front of me, but it's about $1,300 a quarter. You earn these quarters. You have to have 20 quarters within a 10-year period of time. And if you're receiving SSDI or SSI and you work, you're still paying into the system. You're still getting that FICA. So it's very simple for an individual to start getting SSI, start earning income, and then over time move to the SSDI system because they have enough work history to move them over there. Then if you're not sure if you're going to be eligible for SSI or SSDI, you don't have to be sure. When you're applying for adult disability and you're letting them know that you want to apply for both SSI and SSDI, and they'll put you in the category. Also, if you go to that MySSA account with Social Security, it will tell you how many credits you have and how many credits you might need to become eligible for SSDI.
Well, I see it is 7:45, so I know we're a little bit over time.
I'll take one more question.
You can take one more? All right.
Sure.
Is the ABLE account money taxed when it comes out?
Is it taxed when it comes out? No, it's not taxed when it comes out. In fact, there are tax benefits to contributing to the ABLE account.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. This has been incredibly helpful. Everyone, you have Marilyn's contact information on the screen, or
oh,
it was on the screen.
I can bring it up. Let me bring that up again. I'm so sorry.
No worries. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to Marilyn. She's a great resource to have. Thank you so much for joining us for this presentation. I hope this information was helpful to you, and please don't hesitate to contact us. If you have other presentations that you'd like to see like this on certain topics, please let us know.
And please let me know if you do have any questions. Please feel free to call me. Please, if anything from this conversation tonight, you have questions from, please don't hesitate to call me, email me. I am more than happy to spend time with you and answer any questions you might have.
Great. Well, thank you again, Marilyn, and I hope everyone has a great evening and a great rest of your week.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thanks.